Hey guys, I'm Nate and welcome to the Inform AU podcast, where we use controversial science topics as kind of a conversation starter and seeing where that conversation can lead us. Today I am joined by the lovely Zoe.
Hello.
How are we going?
Good. Just so everyone knows, Nate just counted down 3, 2, 1 before hitting record, and
excellent.
It was just very emotional.
It was an emotional roller coaster. As long as I did it in the right order, then that's completely fine. If I was to have done it in any alternative order, then it would have come as a bit more of a surprise. So today we're going to be talking about a very interesting article that I have kind of, it's a topic that I've been following for a little bit now. But the title of this article is Controversial Gene Editing Technique Injected into Cancer Patients in China. Now, Zoe, do you want to try and have a shot as to what you think that actually means, or if you've seen it or heard of it before, where it's going to lead to?
I'm going to guess that it's controversial.
Exactly. Yep.
There are genetics involved.
Exactly. Yep. Well done.
And
reading in between the lines. Good to see.
And this is all taking place in China.
Yes. Well done. So, have you heard of CRISPR before? CRISPR Technology?
No.
No. Well, CRISPR Technology, I have to turn to my notes because I can never remember the acronym. But CRISPR Technology stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. Are you disappointed that I couldn't remember that because it's so easy?
Clusterfuck. Because that's what that was.
Exactly. Yeah. The idea is kind of a bit of a clusterfuck. You can definitely read over my notes again. But it's a technology that started in 2014. It's called CRISPR-Cas9 is how they usually put it in the media. But what they've been doing is that they genetically modified a person's immune cells. So essentially his white blood cells. They took them out of a human, and using this CRISPR-Cas9 technique, they were able to snip out a bit of his DNA in those immune cells that was wrong, that was faulty, because of a genetic mutation, or he's an X-Man, whatever. And because of that, they were able to then re-inject it into him to try and fight his cancer.
What?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a terrifying thing. But so what happens is that this guy has lung cancer. It's like metastatic. It's really, really bad. And he's like all out of options. So he decided to go to China and be part of this clinical trial that only has 10 patients in total, where they take out his immune cells, genetically modify them, and then just simply they cultivate them, so they have to make them reproduce on a petri dish. So we've just got all these creepy scientists looking at white blood cells have sex and then just reproduce offspring.
Is this like that thing where Keith Richards had all of his blood drained and then they put it all back in, but it was all healthy? Like other people's blood?
Actually, yes. I'm going to say it's similar to that.
Because that actually happened. I'm
pretty
sure.
Yeah, it wasn't a made-up movie. It was all based on a true story.
That happened.
It was based on an autobiography. Kind of. Well, okay. That kind of spins off onto another topic where they got the blood of young rats and injected it into older rats, and it increased their vitality, essentially. They became more energetic rats because they had young blood rat inside of them. But anyway, we can come back to that as a point of conversation.
That proves my Keith Richards theory, sorry.
That it was a true story?
Yeah.
Was Keith Richard the rat?
He was the rat.
If Keith Richards is listening to this, I apologise.
Enjoy your young rat blood.
Enjoy your young rat blood. The fountain of youth has been discovered. It's just young blood. So, yeah, kind of similar premise how they took out some of his immune system, essentially. Or
just some of his immune system.
Yeah, a little bit. It wasn't all of it, because he still needs a little bit. You could cough on his face and he'd die pretty quickly if you were to have done that.
Take it all out and put him in, a Bubble Boy situation.
Oh, I love that movie.
Right.
My sister spoiled for my mum, because when you were a child, did you always and then this happened, and then this happened when movies?
I still do that.
You still do that? Okay. And we were nagging my mum about it constantly, and we were like, all right, that's enough. And my sister goes, no, one more thing, it won't ruin it. And then she goes,
anytime someone says that.
Yeah, exactly. And then she says the whole thing. Have you seen Bubble Boy?
Several times.
Several times, yeah. Well, she goes, and at the very end, he has his immunity. And we were just like, what the fuck? She ruined it. And my mum's like, excellent. I don't have to see the whole thing now, which is...
That's what my dad says. It's like, oh, great. I don't have to waste 2 hours of my life. That was a big sleepover movie when I was in early high school. That was like... We were...
The go-to.
It was that and Donnie Darko. It was like a Jake Gyllenhaal double feature.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, he's an attractive guy, so that's understandable.
Especially to a 14-year-old girl for some reason.
Yeah, I would have a slice of that. Fuck it, I'd take the whole bakery.
You take all of the immune system.
Not just a little bit. I take everything. So they put it back into him, and they put it back to him, I think, I'm trying to remember back to me reading the article. I think they did it back in September. And
so like this just happened.
Yeah, this is only just happened in the last couple of months. And what's happened is that they've only just published the article in Nature, which is a massive scientific article. A publishing site, I guess you could say. But
nerd alert.
Yeah, literally. I am a bit of a nerd. I read scientific articles for funsies.
Remembered what this podcast is.
Yeah, exactly. The Inform AU podcast, completely based on science articles.
Terrific.
Exactly. Well, you've stumbled into the lion's den. So well done for surviving so far. So they did it in September, and what I love so far at the moment is that all the articles are just like, oh, we're going to observe him for a couple of months just to make sure there's no like uncalculated adverse effects associated with manipulating this man's DNA.
So you're just on Bubble Boy watch.
Yeah.
It's just like updates from inside the Big Brother house.
Exactly.
Right.
I would think it would just be easier just to watch his like Facebook feed or something for updates.
This could be a great spin-off of The Truman Show.
Yeah, exactly. Except for would like Jim Carrey be the only one in a bubble and everyone else is normal, or would everyone else be in a bubble? Or would everyone be in a bubble, just everyone, including himself, but the secret is that he's the only one without an immunity?
I just want Ed Harris to be in charge.
All right.
Whatever situation happens.
Well, don't really care about the script or the plot, just as long as he's in charge, that's fantastic.
Laura Linney's there.
Fair enough. So they're going to monitor him, but the university that has kind of pushed for this whole trial says that, the clinical trial is just ensuring that we watch him for a couple of months, but we're probably going to watch him for a little bit longer after that. Like, we're just going to make sure we don't get sued. Even though this guy, can you imagine the waiver? Like, I'm not going to sue.
What is the deal with those waivers? How, like...
I actually don't know. I haven't read into the type of legal legislation that is involved in medical trials that are performed in China. It's definitely an area that I plan on working on in the future and becoming better at as an individual, just an all-round better person.
Yeah, especially as like a legislator, which you are
in
China.
Which I am.
Probably...
I probably should be more invested into my area of expertise or where I've decided to go with the rest of my life. They're like, we're going to watch him for a little bit longer to see if messing with his DNA does do anything, or if it doesn't. I'm hoping for him to just become an X-Man. That would be amazing. That's
ideal.
There's the ideal, like absolute ideal. Generalistic ideal, or like reaching your goal, would to not have cancer at the end of it, because we have to remember, just to be alive at the end of it, would be fantastic. But what I find interesting is that they haven't crossed any ethical guidelines, and everyone's kind of questioning the motive behind it. Like, you've taken out someone's DNA and then you've manipulated it and then put it back into his body. How are you not pissing off a lot of government organizations?
Yeah, where is the UN?
Yeah, exactly. Just what are you guys doing? Oh, nothing. What's in that needle?
This is like Captain America: Civil War.
Oh,
it's
my God.
Two
Chris
sides
Evans.
of this. Please join me on my podcast about Chris Evans.
Yeah, exactly. Coming up after this, Chris Evans. What do you think?
Yay or yay?
They're the only options.
The register of superheroes. I feel like that's where this is leading to.
There probably is some form of registry that is involved with people who have had CRISPR performed on their DNA.
Special abilities.
Oh, I want it to be real. I want superhero powers. I want that. I won't say superhero powers. I'll just say powers, because who knows? I could be overwhelmed by that power and become a villain.
Interesting.
What a twist.
Which brings us back to the Captain America First Avenger. Like, you have to be pure of heart to get this super serum. Join me on my podcast.
Where we actually break down the real-life ramifications of if Captain America was real.
Of Stanley Tucci movies.
Yeah, I made... side note, made a Year 9 student cry because I told him that the Hulk wasn't real.
We need to call this kid's parents.
Yeah, and apologise.
And
it wasn't recent. It was last year. But yeah,
I don't. Please elaborate.
So he was a student that I was teaching at a school in Queensland, and I every now and then I do a lightning round at the end of the lesson, and I go, ask any science question you want, and I will try and answer it to the best of my ability. Because being a Chinese legislator, I'm perfect for that type of thing. Exactly, it's my expertise. And he goes, how do I become the Hulk? And I was like, well, in the comic books, he gets exposed to a lot of gamma radiation, which messes up with his DNA, and every now and then when he gets angry, he turns into this massive green rage monster. And he goes, comic book? Like...
Oh, no.
And I was like, yeah, the comic book, that didn't actually happen. And then he looks at me and goes like, but the Avengers... And I was like...
Not a documentary.
Yeah, not a documentary. I was just like, inside, I was like, oh, shit. I'm down the rabbit hole.
Did everyone look at him like, dude?
No, they didn't just look at him. They looked at me. They were like, sir, ball's in your court. Like, they were just like...
Oh, my God.
Sacrifice. They were waiting for to see what I came back with. And I said, that was a movie. That wasn't real. And he got really emotional about the whole thing. I continue to apologise for the next like half a year or year or so that I was teaching him, and he's like, "Oh, sir, it's all good. I already knew." And then with like a whole time,
I'll have this kid on my Avengers podcast. It's fine.
Oh, he will be super passionate. But you have to talk. The whole podcast has to be like it's real.
Like the incident really took place.
Yeah. Who's paying for all these damages? What's going to happen at the end of all this?
There should be a register of... Now, my question about the Hulk is, what's the deal with those pants?
With why they don't rip?
Yeah, because like...
PG. Wait, M?
But like, did Tony Stark make him pants?
Oh, that's a good question. What type of polymer are they made of? Is it a cotton wool blend?
Jarvis, we got to cover Clint's butt when he...
Clint? Not Clint.
Oh, Clint's Hawkeye.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't do much. Oh, that's going to annoy a lot of people. That I've said that Hawkeye doesn't do much. Bruce Banner.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm so white and nerdy.
We've got to cover Bruce's butt.
We've got to cover... Oh, my God. We've got to cover Bruce's banner. I bet you... It's probably...
I didn't care for that.
It's probably proportionate. Like, realistically...
If the genes expand, it really bugs me that he keeps those pants on. It's not real. It's like less realistic.
He just needs to lose them.
It's less realistic that the genes hulk out than he. Like I believe he hulks out.
If anyone's listening to this podcast, can they go through every image and see if there's like a brand on the jeans? I want to see if they're actually if there is like product placement on. Hi, do you gain weight drastically and incredibly rapidly so much that you rip through your clothes? Well, buy this pair of jeans and you're not going to have that issue.
Overly emotional and cause a stir.
Do you rage black out? Well, these are the pants for you.
Surely they're Stark Technologies.
They're bound to be. But if you think about it, then like there would be a massive like Stark logo just on the front or all over.
And I don't think they'd be jeans.
You don't think Stark would manufacture jeans? You reckon there'd be leggings?
I mean, I know he's very close with Bruce, and if Bruce had a preference, he'd go out of his way.
Yeah, he would discuss it. He wouldn't be like, I made you some pants, put them on, and so we don't have to deal with your shit. He'd be like,
Bruce is like a low-key guy.
I'm thinking about doing this. What do you reckon?
Right.
All right.
He's more of a corduroy, if anything.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Do you reckon he would have like the camo pants?
No.
No?
That's a Hawkeye.
That's a Hawkeye?
If anyone's wearing camo pants, it's Clint.
It's Clint. It's clearly Clint. When he's out at his little like homestead out in the middle of nowhere on a farm. In his ranch. Yeah. So, holy shit, this conversation has taken an amazing tangent. Back to this clustered regularly interspace short palindromic repeats. So, done in 2014. This is originally something that bacteria does. So, when bacteria get attacked by bacteriophages, they're basically viruses who are designed to attack bacteria. What they do is that the viruses inject some of their DNA into the bacteria, try to take over it. So inside of us, we have DNA replicating for when our cells divide so that we can repair ourselves. But what this virus does is that it kind of interjects its DNA into the bacteria's DNA, kind of like tries to hide it in there and go like, oh, cool, sweet, yep, I'm just part of the cell. If you can remake these parts as well, that would be fantastic.
Whoa.
Those bits of the virus are made, get turned into more viruses, and they take over like the system of that bacteria.
That's crazy.
Yeah. What? That should be illegal. Sorry, I've seen like a really horrible... I showed my kids like a Year 9 thing on the immune system about a cold virus taking over this boy so he couldn't go to the theme park on the weekend. Anyway... And he was just like, his name was Nate as well. Oh, and they're like, oh, so did you pick this because it was Nate? Yeah, no. This guy was an idiot.
This is a documentary about me.
Yeah, exactly. I drew all of this. It was a horrible cartoon. There was horrible sound bites.
Magic School Bus?
Yes. That actually came up in the previous podcast as well with Hayden. He knows how science and magic can work together.
Do you know Lily Tomlin is the voice of Miss, what's her name? Shit. Fraggle Rock. No, what's Frizzle? Miss Frizzle.
You were struggling. You look like... Okay, your eyes just showed so much panic then because you were just like, I'm going to be so disappointed in myself if I don't get this name. Holy shit.
I'm a big Lily Tomlin fan.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's okay.
Also the movie Inner Space, starring Martin Short and Dennis Quaid.
I don't think I've seen Inner Space.
Dennis Quaid is like an interior body astronaut. And
he's like interior designer and he's in space.
And he goes inside Martin Short.
Oh.
It's crazy.
Romantic.
It is romantic because Meg Ryan's in it. And Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, IRL, were married.
Oh, that's cute.
Join me on my podcast.
I love it. Zoe actually off to the side has a little notepad and she's writing down all of these ideas as we go through them. This is something normal that bacteria or that viruses do in bacteria, and quite rarely, the bacteria actually survives. And what it does is that it gets these little flags and it goes, cool, sweet, this is the DNA bit that really ruined it for me. Though this is the guy that I invited in that fucked up the house. Now I have to clean up because my parents are coming home soon. Real life story. But
are you Aaron Carter?
kind of a little bit. And what happened was that if the virus attacks the bacteria again, it starts scanning. So there's an enzyme called Cas9, which is where CRISPR-Cas9 comes from, that scans through the DNA and goes, hold on, we've got these flags here. This bit of the DNA is the DNA that ruined me in the first place. I'm going to not read that bit of DNA, and it completely skips over it. It goes from one flag. Yeah, it remembers the virus that attacked it. It's similar to our immune system. So our immune system has memory T cells.
Right.
Which basically, so if a virus attacks you and you survive it, which is most of the time, hopefully, you have memory T cells which go, cool, the virus that had a DNA of this pattern was the virus that attacked me, which is why you have to get flu shots because of mutations. They're constantly evolving so that every time you get sick, so I'm currently sick at the moment, I have no idea what it is. It's just a bit of a scratchy, tickly throat, which is driving me up the wall because I have to talk so much in a podcast situation and in teaching. But this strain that I've been infected with now is a strain that I haven't been infected with before.
What?
Yeah, Illuminati confirms. Sorry.
Inferno starring Tom.
Join me on my next podcast.
I'm so sorry.
Everything Tom Hanks.
I would listen to that.
Everything Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty great. I wouldn't mind it. I have students who haven't seen Green Mile, and I just
They should be expelled.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. You got a 0 in science. That's unfortunate. Go watch the Green Mile and you might pass.
Yeah.
Get out.
There's like science in that. Or Magic, same thing.
The same thing. Magic School Bus was the crossover of the pie chart that brings those two worlds together.
That is a very interesting point, that it was all about science, but it was called magic.
What? Oh God.
Like she was a science teacher, but it was a magic
She's a
school
science
bus.
teacher, but she was actually a wizard.
Yeah, like what are you? Is this...
What's your end game? What are you doing here? What type of wage are you on to be a teacher? What is your deal?
Miss Frizzle.
Miss Frizzle. So yeah, this is something that they normally do. We found out that it does it, and we were like, holy shit, this is so much easier than what we've been doing before. Like, so much easier than how we were trying to modify DNA. Because the way that we were doing it, we suck at it. We were like, we would try and cut DNA. Don't think about like really tiny scissors, but we were doing it with chemicals. And it was really messy. Like, it wasn't precise. Whereas this way, literally, it's very, very easy. It's very cheap, super efficient. It can be done quickly. It just goes boom and just cuts the DNA at very specific spots. And what we've been doing it for, we've been doing a similar techniques going back to the last podcast where we take out the DNA in pigs and put in human DNA so that a human organ grows in that pig. Listen back to the previous podcast if you want to know more. Sorry, that was a horrible plug.
Archives.
Hit up our archives, exactly.
So we're just like taking pigs and making them harvest our organs?
Yeah, so that we can then take those organs out and put them inside of us for like to cure diabetes. But then we're worried about the conversation that led on from that was human pig chimera bacon, and if you would eat it and if it counts as cannibalism. I'm going to leave you with that thought, and we're going to keep on going with this story here. This is
my face is all kinds of screwed right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to keep you up at night as you ponder that quandary. So this is something that we used to be able to do, but a lot harder and a lot slower. Whereas this technique, CRISPR, we saw a bacteria do it. I think it was E. coli that we saw do it. I can't remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was E. coli. Cas9 was the first enzyme we saw do it. I think we've got maybe 5 or 7 enzymes that do the exact same thing that we've been able to identify. This is the first time that we genetically modified cells and then just injected them back into a person. They escaped ethics because it was his own cells. Like, when you start getting into ethics and it comes into, like, gene editing and whatnot, they start getting really, like, the ethics board start, like, red flags start going out when you start talking about, like, embryo stem cells and genetics and stuff like that. So, at the moment in America, embryos that are being genetically modified, they can only keep them alive for, I think it's about 28 days. And then they have to terminate the embryos. So, they'll do genetic modification and then they'll leave it live for 28 days, and then they'll see what changes in the proteins and in the structure of the organism has occurred in those 28 days, and they have to terminate because they're afraid of like it growing into like a full-fledged organism and what that's going to lead to type thing. And if you're going to get an emotional attachment to a human pig chimera and you're not going to be able to put it down and then release it into the wild, and then that genetic mutation's out in the wild, and yeah, because once you've CRISPR'd something, you can't go back.
What if something fascinating happens on day 29?
And we'll
never know.
Well, they might get more funding and kind of change the legislation in a way that they'll be able to, like, go past that 28 days.
So if you have more money, you can breeze past ethics.
Yeah.
That's what happened last week.
Gotcha. That explains a lot. So, yeah, they're going to inject it in this guy that has lung cancer, and because what happens is that when a person has cancer, in this guy's case, I think it's protein PD-1. It's a type of protein which basically goes like, oh, this cell needs to die. This is yada yada. Well, the presence of this protein stops your immune system from functioning properly.
Got it.
It's basically, if this protein is present, then the body knows that there's not an issue, that there's no need for an immune response or for a cell to be attacked type thing. So it's an invisibility cloak essentially. And
that's
cancer,
so shady.
That's so shady. Just like because you're under the cloak and it casts a bit of a shadow. And,
yeah, it's like physically shady and also ethically
shady.
Back to ethics.
So much shades. Shades squared. Oh, that could be like a type of glasses. Anyway, that was a stupid idea.
We'll work on that later.
We'll work on it later.
We'll workshop it.
Join us on our next podcast on entrepreneurship and new ideas. But so where was I going with this? Exactly. Cancer, basically, I can't remember if cancer either produces this or just knows that this protein means that the immune system won't attack it, and like coats itself in it. So that immune system cells that are usually just monitoring the body can come past and be like, oh, no, that's a normal cell. I don't need to have an immune response.
That's so crazy.
But what they're doing is that they've, They've genetically modified it so the white blood cells that they've re-injected into the body doesn't necessarily react to the presence of this protein. So that even though the cancer cell might be using this protein to mask its presence, that the cells will still go, oh, that's a cancer cell, I probably should destroy that. So they've injected into his bloodstream and they're hoping that it will replicate and create more white blood cells that have this genetic modification in it, so that it'll attack any cancer that's present in his body, and they're hoping to cure him of metastatic lung cancer.
Whoa.
Which would be a first. Like, we haven't really just straight up cured a cancer from an injection. So he's only had one injection at the moment. He's going to be getting another one, but they won't say when, which is really, really weird. They're not saying when because of, like, patient confidentiality, which I don't know.
Is that because if he dies, then no one's going to be like...
I'm not too sure, but the thing is, it's like, how are you breaching a patient's confidentiality if you disclose when he's going to get another injection?
I'll tell you, Nate, because he's an X-Men.
Yeah, exactly. Any
Professor
issues?
X is at the top of this food chain.
Do you reckon they're waiting at the clinic? It's like, oh, they said he was going to get his second injection at this date. We want to see the guy who's got genetically modified immune system.
Wait, does he have to keep going back to the clinic? Isn't he like in the bubble?
So type thing. I'm not too sure on. I haven't read further enough into the article or the actual journal article published in Nature. But I'm not so quite sure on the type of immune cell that they've injected into him. If it's a macrophage usually will... If it's a macrophage or a neutrophil, depending on its role, once it gets to an area and starts like attacking type thing, they die after a couple of days. They have, especially with a bacterial infection, they have a programmed cell death or a suicide. It's called apoptosis, where they literally... Because some of them are so strong that they damage healthy tissue around it. So they have this... Yeah, I know. Insane in the membrane. Literally in the membrane of the skin. That was so horrible, Nate. But that's led onto some amazing things. It's fantastic. So yeah, he has to get like top-ups of his immune system.
Yeah, okay.
Because some of the cells die and they're unsure of what that's actually going to lead to.
Do you know if this is a painful procedure for this gentleman?
No, it's a shot. It's literally like an injection into the arm.
So when they take it out of him, though, is it like...
Oh, or
you know
removing
what I mean?
it?
Yeah, and then like putting it back in.
So what they would do is that they would take blood out of his body. They would take it out, and what they do is they put it through a centrifuge.
Okay, so it's just like taking blood.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, well,
it's
yeah,
not like
it
bone
is.
Marrow or something.
They take no bone marrow. Taking bone marrow sucks because you have to be conscious for it, which really, really sucks. But you get a blood sample, you put it in a centrifuge, you spin it, and it separates it into your red blood cell and your plasma, which is where your white blood cells are, essentially. So you spin it and you get all these pretty layers because of density and other things. They would have taken that, modified it, then put it back in.
Are white blood cells white?
Are white blood cells white? I don't actually know.
Because that cartoon Plasma, he was red.
I know that So I've seen many a white blood cell underneath a microscope before. Red blood cells do have a reddish tinge to them, especially when they have light pass through them. And white blood cells are slightly like transparent.
So they're clear blood cells.
They're clear. Oh, what does colour have to do with anything?
I'm a visual person. I'm trying to visualize this.
Okay, so kind of think about it like this. This is going to test me, and I'm pretty sure someone's going to remind me. Yeah, for me to be tested.
With dumb questions.
So neutrophils, for example, neutrophils are transparent, and inside of them they might have 3 to 5 nuclei. And when you stain them with a particular stain, I can't remember what it is, they appear to be purple in colour. So think of like a circular, slightly transparent disc with purple blobs on the inside that are connected like a smiley face.
A smiley face?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes you get a smiley face arrangement of the nuclei on neutrophil. Making science fun and kid-friendly. Yeah.
Okay.
But sometimes, so yeah, he needs to get top-ups. They're doing it for lung cancer, and they want to do it for some other cancers. They want to do it for renal and kidney and a few other things. But one of the things that they're really worried about, so there's a guy, what is it? NCBC, I think. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's an organisation that has to do with ethics. I know Catholic is one of them. But what he's doing is that he's talking about some of the ramifications that this can lead to. This type of technology, so far we just want to cure diseases, which is great, which is innocent, which isn't hurting anyone, unless it's like an excruciating experience where your immune system attacks yourself. Let's not get into that. But they're worried about... So one of the options that they... So they're like, oh, we're worried. What are you worried about? Well, if they do this, that's going to make us concerned. So they essentially were giving out options on what genetic modifications would make them uneasy. And they're like, technically, hypothetically speaking, and then he looks over at like the commander-in-chief or something like that. If they were to genetically modify the embryos, you could create super soldiers, making direct eye contact with the commander-in-chief. But yeah, you could... So you have like slow twitch muscle fibers and fast twitch muscle fibers, and depending on like the percentage of which you have in your arms, you're either built for like stamina or you're built for strength. And depending on depending on the type of soldier you want, you could make one that's strong or make one that's fast. Or
Stanley Tucci is in on this.
So that's one of the things that they're really worried about, that this type of technology is going to lead to enhanced soldiers. Red Skull, exactly. Welcome to the Captain America portion of the podcast. Yeah, so it's exactly that. The serum can either be used to create more Captain Americas or more Red Skull.
So you really got to have a questionnaire of like, what do you think is important?
What do you think is important?
What do you care about?
America? Yeah.
Are you good
so what
or
do you
bad?
think? Well, okay, so at the moment they're just doing it. They're using CRISPR on people who are sick, on their immune system. At the moment, that's all we're doing it for. Do you think that's okay?
Yes, Crispin Glover. I'm on board.
CRISPR-Cas9. How far do you think is too far?
Red Skull is too far.
Red Skull, it's just like cured a guy of lung cancer. Red Skull.
World War II.
World War II. Isn't that already happening now? Oh, controversial.
Hey, controversial is in the title of this.
Of the article, Hello. It is. Well done. Bringing it back.
Look, I don't know.
What traits or characteristics physiologically of a human could be enhanced that you would be okay with?
Punctuality. I would love a punctuality serum. I take it every day.
Increases that area of the brain that is responsible for that.
I don't know. If you're like, why stop at cancer?
So they're branching out into other cancers. They're branching out into other cancers. So I think they have like 3 or 4 at the moment that they want to trial. They've got another 9 patients that they want to be doing it, and they're going to like monitor them for the next 6 months. Like, I don't know. Like this is me like being a combination of, I have to be a logical scientist and the negative ramifications of
rationality.
Exactly. Of like, so like permanently. So once you've like genetically modified DNA, you can't necessarily backtrack.
So it's a Pandora's box. It's we create a super serum, but like,
how are we going to use it?
Yeah. Okay.
Tune in next week to find out, will our adventurer survive? But yeah, and so I've got like the scientific side of like, this is pretty fucked up. Like we're getting into like evolution and kind of like ruining it. So the argument is like, oh, human civilization are evolving and adapting on this lineage. Except for if we do this and start going like, I want to get rid of this bit of DNA and I want to get rid of this yada, yada, yada. We're going to like take human evolution down a path that wasn't determined by nature. It was determined by us, which is a scary thing.
Creepy.
But they also, so you could, if you wanted to, you could get, so if people couldn't have kids, you could do in vitro fertilization. This is me just kind of brainstorming on the idea. In vitro fertilization, get the sperm and the egg, bring them together, have an embryo, and then you could genetically test that and then be like, oh, cool, this kid has a gene sequence for an increased risk in cancer or for cystic fibrosis or for this or for that disease, yada, 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 then come in, gene edit that bit out or fix it type thing. So there are genetic disorders and genetic diseases that can be associated with like a single letter or a single protein that is incorrect in the entire sequence of like proteins. They could be like thousands of proteins long. Like one is so. I think there's one protein that's responsible. I think it's on like one DNA strand on the seventh chromosome, which is responsible for cystic fibrosis.
You just made all of that up, but yeah.
No, it's like one protein. That protein is, if that protein is something else, that person can have cystic fibrosis.
Okay, that's crazy.
Like it's just one protein, and we're just thinking like, would you be okay with getting an embryo, screening its DNA, and going, oh, it has this increased risk of this?
Yeah. I thought they already do this.
I thought
that was like
the norm.
Not the norm, but like
something that was considered.
That was a thing that like we were heading towards or something.
Well, you've got kind of. So there's an organization in America that it's constantly getting like lawsuits filed against it. It's called 23andMe. Have you heard of 23andMe? Yeah. They're
Is it like
really,
a designer baby thing?
Kind of. So what they do is that you send them some spit, they run your whole DNA and be like, oh, you have genetic markers for this disease, yada, yada, yada. Which makes your health insurance invalid if you do it before you get health insurance. Yeah.
Is that what mapping genomes is? Because I just watched a thing on mapping the human genome and it was like crazy.
Yeah,
and how
exactly.
you can like put yours up against your partner's and then it's like, well, our baby's probably going to have this.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. That's what they tried to patent that at 23andMe. They tried to be able to hold ownership over the technology that would be like, oh, if I get your partner's sperm on your egg and bring them together, then the chances of your child having brown eyes is this % and yada, 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 and being tall and good at sport are these percentages, and they would give you like this piece of paper and numbers. Ugh, yuck. Spooky.
I was more like good at sports.
Who wants to do that?
Ugh.
Sweat and running and panting. It's all horrible stuff.
Gross.
But that's what they were trying to patent that. And that pissed off a lot of people.
Like the guy who invented that.
Yeah. The guy who,
Because that's the thing I watched. It was him. The guy who like...
Having it... Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's having a bitch.
He was... Look, this was on like a talk show and they mapped the host's genome. However you're supposed to phrase that sentence.
So, we finished the genome... what year? I did this in the last podcast. I can't remember what year. I think it was.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, they started in, I think it was 1990 and they finished in 2009.
He said the first time he did it, it cost $100 million.
Yeah.
And now he's whittled it down to $1,200. So like now anyone
I love it how he's like, I whittled it down. Like, I was able to knock off like 5%. No, like you've taken it from a couple of, what was it? How many million?
$100 million.
$100 million down to what, 12,000 or 1,200?
1,200.
Jesus Christ, that's not whittling. Well, that's whittling away a little bit, then keeping the little bit and getting rid of everything else.
Like, does that mean that that's how quick technology moves? It's like like how a computer took up a whole room and now it's like in my back pocket.
Well, yeah. So your phone is a stronger computer than what landed Apollo.
Guys, we got to pump the brakes on this.
How much does that ruin your brain? I had one kid like, oh, sir, does that mean that I could use my phone to land a rocket on the moon? I'm like, well, if you had the right number, if you had the right sequences of ones and zeros, then I'm pretty sure you could. And then they just sat in the back corner, and I think they were just Googling.
Is it the Hulk kid?
No, this is someone else.
Bloody hell.
Bloody Hulk.
Children.
I used to call him Hulk after that just because I felt bad.
That's cruel.
And he would flex. He loved it.
That's disturbing. That's a child.
No, it's all right. He was in year 9. He was like 14.
Then he should not have thought the Hulk was real.
Yeah. That's okay.
No.
You're entitled to your beliefs as long as you don't force those beliefs on other people.
I just would love to have
so many like passive silent stabs just then made at different organizations and groups.
I would have loved to be one of the girls in the back row just being like, like
I'm going to go back to my book.
Yeah.
Stupid men. God damn it. What are they good for? Not much. Actually, not much.
Unless you're Tony Stark and can make a pair of those pants.
A pair of those stretchy pants.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an excellent place to end on Tony Stark stretchy pants. But yeah, if someone can find me if there is an actual brand on those pants, that
Guys,
would be fantastic. Get to work, Horde.
Email me at hulkpants@hotmail.com.
At Hotmail?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. I was going to say Gmail, but Hotmail definitely seems more appropriate.
OG, I've been at this a while. Yeah.
I've been doing podcasts. I don't know if you heard the podcast ideas that I ratted out. They weren't just ideas. I've been doing them for years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, thank you very much,
Thank
Zoe,
you so much
for joining us. I
learned a lot.
Yeah, I hope you can walk away from this being informed. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I felt so bad.
I did a lot of nodding and like active listening.
Yeah.
Because I was really into all that science stuff. And then I realized like it's a podcast and it just sounded like I was filing my nails or something. But no, I was like
No, that's all right.
A lot.
You definitely contributed. This is the bit that I enjoy. Like I enjoy doing all this stuff and like blowing people's minds with science. But yeah.
Great.
So if you guys have any suggestions for any articles that you want us to discuss later on, definitely send them through to scienceinformau@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook at scienceinform as well as Instagram and Twitter at scienceinformau. Thank you very much.
No worries. And guys, seriously, hulkpants@hotmail.com. Thank you so much.
Bye.